This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and no, I am not Seth Merrow. I'm Tom Amello sitting in for Seth Merrow, who is down with Mike Callahan at the Belmont Stakes. This is Racing Across America, but on this day, American racing comes to New York. It's the Belmont Stakes Day, as I know you know. I'm delighted to be here, and what we're going to do throughout this show is bring you some information from Seth and Mike down at Belmont Park. They've taped a series of segments and interviews for you. So I'll be guiding us through that process. And a little later on in the program, I will be talking to my good friend Michael Kipnis, the Wizard, sort of an old-timers day here at OTB. So let's get right to it and get down to a tape session. Mike Callahan and Seth Merrow recapping Friday's races from Belmont Park.
All right, live from Belmont Park. It is Friday evening. We're going to do a little recap of some of the stakes action on Friday. Seth Merrow and Mike Callahan. Mike, it was a nice day Friday.
Absolutely. I mean, there were some star-studded performances. To me, though, early on, and we're probably going to talk about that race first, the Bed of Roses, race number 3. Lewis Bay, absolutely tremendous in victory. And I know kind of an interesting race. We'll kind of talk about that in a second in here. But again, as far as a standout performance goes, Lewis Bay and probably the Queen call to mind with a very dominant performance.
Let's jump right into that. The Bed of Roses Grade 3 event, $250,000 up for grabs for sprinting fillies and mares, 7 furlongs the trip. Lewis Bay went off as the co-second choice, actually. The favorite was American Gal at 4-5, and then at 3-1, it was both Lewis Bay and Divine Miss Gray. But of those three, she was the only one to hit the top 3 finishing position. Lewis Bay gets it done. Irad Ortiz, Chad Brown, Lewis Bay wins by a chart margin of 5.5 lengths at that 3-1 price. Highway Star runs second. Karen runs third in here as the rank outsider at 16-1. So again, a little bit of a price there. If you play it around, you got a just under $50 exacta in a 5-horse field. But to do that, you had to take your shot against American Gal. I thought coming out of that race at Churchill, she was going to be the horse to beat. Just seemed like she was in really good form right now. But as it got late in the race, not so good. Running 5th in the field of 5 as the 4-5 favorite. But Lewis Bay gets it done.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the race kind of right at the beginning. The gates open. American Gal misses the break. She was expected to be the speed in here, especially with Chalone, who had scratched out. You expected American Gal to kind of get an easy lead. Maybe Divine Miss Gray was going to go with her. But when the gates opened, you saw Irad Ortiz Jr. kind of take advantage of American Gal missing the break. You saw Divine Miss Gray go to the lead. American Gal looked like she just really wasn't comfortable at all at any point of the race, so I'll probably throw that out when she comes back next time out. But Lewis Bay sits the ideal trip just off of Divine Miss Gray, able to duel her in submission and then kick clear by an impressive 5.5. I thought Highway Star, and again, I know you were down giving interviews. I was going over this race on OTB Live during the cut-ins. I actually gave away this exacta. Hopefully some people had it at $50, just under $50. But again, Highway Star is one of those gutsy horses, time and time again. A little bit overlooked at a 5.5 to 1 when they went off, all said and done. But we ran a really solid second place performance. And again, if you're able to look past American Gal, and again, kind of nobody thought she was going to break that poorly, but nonetheless, you kind of profited with that $50 exacta.
Yeah, Highway Star, Chester and Mary Broman, nice little New York bred, who has won over $1 million, as you say, in the hunt more often than not. 12 exacta finishes in 18 career starts before this afternoon, so now 13 of 19 in the exacta for that one. As I say, nice little New York bred Highway Star. All right, let's move on. Race number 5 on the card on Friday was the Tremont, $150,000. Always a fun race, fun early season 2-year-old race, 5.5 furlongs. The interesting story in here was May Never Know, the filly that was entered against the boys for Wesley Ward, won against the girls at Belmont in the career debut early in May. She goes off as the 2 to 1 favorite, the filly against the boys, but all of that is on Wesley Ward. A Wesley Ward runner you always have to pay attention to in these 2-year-old sprint races, stakes or not. Sombaye was a horse I thought was going to be a little bit live from Todd Pletcher. Sir Troubadour was the horse I put on top for Steve Asmussen. That one winds up running 4th. Sombaye is 2nd. But none of the aforementioned horses get it done, as it is Our Brain Trust at 10 to 1, second longest price on the board, comes in from Maryland. A little bit overlooked on that Maryland angle, but another horse, like most of these in here, with 1 career start and 1 win. The number was maybe a little bit lighter, but certainly looked pretty good on this Friday afternoon, getting it done in a stakes race. Our Brain Trust for Cathal Lynch, again, coming in from a Laurel career debut.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because again, just like this story yesterday, the Tremont with the boys, and again we saw May Never Know try her luck against the boys in here. It's always tough to dissect those first out winners. Everybody in here had a first out win predominantly, so how do you really take a look at it? Everybody takes a look at the board. They see where the money's kind of flowing, who's really coming in as far as a workout pattern. But again, a horse that was overlooked in the Astoria, we saw an upset winner with the horse shipping in from out west. Tajori was one of the horses that was taking a lot of money in that Astoria. But again, just like back in the Astoria, the Tremont gets an upset winner in here, heads up ride by Javier Castellano to kind of skim the rail. May Never Know looked like she had it won at about the 8th pole, and then got a little, leg weary coming down the stretch, and Our Brain Trust was able to capitalize.
And again, early 2-year-old season stakes race. These are the kind, pay attention to maybe through the first half of Saratoga, because it's unusual if a horse that is precocious at this point winds up being a star 3-year-old, for instance, much less a real presence in the latter part of the season as a 2-year-old. But these horses could play into those 2-year-old stakes at the beginning up to the half point of the Saratoga meet.
Yeah, absolutely. You have those races like this, the Schuylerville, the Sanford, and all those baby type races. It's going to be interesting, though. Outshine was a horse that disappointed, took a lot of money for the Pletcher barn in this situation, but didn't run the best race ideally. But again, go back and watch the early part of the race. It's so key to break well. You saw May Never Know break well and actually pinched the 6 who I like, Sir Troubadour, and also the 5 Girl Loves Me, and they were completely out of it just really right at the start. And it's one of those situations where the start is so important. I know Bob Baffert talks about it a lot with Justify. If he can get that horse off to a good going right off the bat, then he's okay. It's so important to break well in these situations, because race dynamics-wise, that's where you kind of set yourself up to come down the lane.
And as I say, I won't discount any of these horses totally from being players as we get to the end of the year. It's just very unusual for 2-year-olds to be precocious now and hang on to that, but certainly can strike while the iron's hot and go into that Saratoga meet with a little bit of punch for some of these 2-year-olds. All right, let's move on to the True North. Nice sprint stake, grade 2 event, $250,000, 6.5 furlongs. The favorite, I was kind of surprised. Imperial Hint 9-2 on the morning line, went off as the 8-5 favorite in here, and the betting public was right. They nailed it. Imperial Hint gets it done. Whitmore, a horse, I just wanted this one to kind of give me a little bit of confidence away from Oaklawn, where Whitmore has just been so potent the past couple of seasons. I had that one underneath. The horse that I liked on top, I think you liked also, Bobby Abu Dhabi. That one winds up running third in here. It was a neck margin from Imperial Hint to Whitmore, and then a length and a half to Bobby Abu Dhabi, and well separated to the three coming up behind them. But it was, again, three logicals, pretty interesting sprint stakes race. I was just maybe a little bit surprised, although Imperial Hint, with plenty of triple-digit buyer figures showing on the page, just maybe a little surprised that the betting public went for that one as the favorite.
Yeah, I think they were good and smart as far as angle-wise to look at the last race and say, you know what, just really didn't like the slop. You go back to any of those races, would fit very nicely in here as far as buyers goes, and had that really nice winning streak of 4 races in a row back in early 2017. And again, it was just the way that the race set up. To me, it was probably the most heads-up ride by Javier on the day, and he had a phenomenal day on Friday. Your recruiting ready was going to go. You automatically knew that. Where was the kind of second, third, where you're going to sit the pocket type deal? I actually thought Bobby Abu Dhabi would get the Imperial Hint trip and kind of sit off of them, and I thought that the applying pressure part would be from Imperial Hint, but Javier kind of took the horse back. You saw Victor Espinoza kind of capitalize on that, but in the end kind of dueled himself into defeat, and we got down to that 8th pole. It was a little bit out of gas. You saw Imperial Hint go strong to the wire, and you also saw Whitmore. I thought Whitmore ran a terrific race, just wasn't able to get up, but time and time again is very classy in all regards.
All right, let's move on to the New York. This was Fillies and Mares going 1.25 miles on the turf. Grade 2 worth $600,000. A little bit freaky as Fahan Murrah went out and opened up a huge lead early. Sometimes that pays off. Sometimes it doesn't. In this case, it did not, as that one got swallowed up as they headed to the stretch. And then it played out the way I actually thought it would. A little bit juggled up. I had it 5, 8, and 2. It comes out 8, 5, and 6. And I had the 6 down in the 4th slot. But the 8 and the 5, I had them switched. They were the 2 Chad Brown runners, Sister Charlie and 4-Star Crook. I said when I did the audio cut in during the afternoon, I like 4-Star Crook. I kind of thought that horse was going to be interesting this year after the really nice race to start the season at Tampa when we were down for Florida Derby weekend. We were talking with Chad about this horse and what the future might hold, and we had a grade 1 in the Jenny Wiley. That was a second-place finish, a nice second-place finish for a New York bred, and it was behind Sister Charlie. So I went in that direction, Sister Charlie over 4-Star Crook, but I wasn't shocked by the nice performance by 4-Star Crook. Maybe a little surprised by the $10 and change mutual, as that one was the 4-1 second choice. But I think part of that is just because Sister Charlie took so much money, 55 cents to the dollar favorite. But it was the 2 Chads. To me, they look logical, and they were kind of ding-dong down the stretch. It was a head margin.
No, yeah, I mean, you have to bring up the fractions right off the bat, the horse winging it. And you kind of, in those type of races, lose track of where your competition is because everybody's so strung out.
Yeah.
I mean, Sister Charlie was at 1 point 25 lengths off of the leader, so you kind of lose where everybody else is instead of one of those tight, like, jostling type of races where everybody's on top of each other. But nonetheless, 4-Star Crook loves it here at Belmont. I mentioned that when we went, talked about this race before they went, and 4-Star Crook was 5 for 6 at Belmont, now 6 for 7, just able to hold on to Sister Charlie. Really, Chad has to be happy with both of their performances. I mean, they're ahead apart at the end. Sister Charlie, I just think, gave up a little too much room. 4-Star Crook was able to hang on.
All right, and finally the Belmont Gold Cup. Our synopsis will probably take less time than the race, which went in a course record of 3:16 and change. 2 miles on the grass in the Belmont Gold Cup, grade 2 event, worth $400,000. I thought Nessie was going to be interesting. Nessie goes off at 9-2 and winds up disappointing 6th in the field of 8. Canassar was the horse I had underneath. That one was a good second. But the winner with a gutsy stretch drive, because I kind of had a feeling Call to Mind was going to get past a couple times in the stretch. But, man, she just kept going and going. He just kept going and going. Call to Mind, notable because owned by the Queen of England. So the Queen's colors get into the winner's circle on Belmont Stakes weekend.
Yeah, it's always good to be the Queen. It's even better when you win a grade 2 event on the eve of the Belmont Stakes. So terrific performance. Again, you have to talk about Javier Castellano. Was terrific in all the stakes races. Was really kind of the headliner as far as jockey goes on this Friday card. Very impressive performance. You kind of saw it on paper. And again, when you allude to 2-mile races, you automatically think Euro. That's in their pedigree. It's what they do. And really, that's kind of how it went. The one was able to sit that stocking trip, able to angle out. At one point, you kind of thought the 3 was a potential horse. I had that horse as a long shot. That was Prince of Arian, who ended up finishing 3rd. Horse that had faced a couple nice horses in Vizierabad and Sheikh Zayed Road. I thought that horse ran a decent performance to finish 3rd at a little bit of a price, 10-1. And then the horse I know you like, Caniçar, rounds out a Euro triple in this spot.
Yeah, and it was an end to a great day, and then stakes-wise anyway, to a great day leading into a really nice Saturday. So we'll wrap it up. Stakes recap for Friday. Don't forget, tune in Saturday afternoon for live cut-ins live from Belmont. Seth Merrill and Mike Callahan. We'll see you then.
Dirty windows? Don't do it yourself. Call Clean Image, your window cleaning professionals, and enhance the look of your business or home without the worry. Clean Image pledges nothing less than 100% customer satisfaction. It's guaranteed. Homes, offices, bed and breakfast, vacation homes, and more. Clean Image has cleaned them all. Carpet and floor cleaning, pressure washing, and janitorial services are also available. Call today, 446-1397. That's 446-1397. Online at clean-image.net.
You know, and make better decisions, better choices, to know how to connect the dots. In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool, but not the only tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. These too are important tools, and you'll find them all right here at Capital OTB. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
In a recent study of some of the top online wagering sites, Capital OTB won big in total player rewards, far surpassing some of the best-known wagering sites in America. While other rewards programs simply offer you points redeemable for gift cards, Capital OTB's rebates are paid to you in actual cash. Plus, Capital OTB gives you full and immediate access to your money. So if all you're getting now are points and gift cards, join Capital OTB Player Rewards today and get cash back. Visit CapitalOTBBet.com and sign up today.
This is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Thank you for staying with us, ladies and gentlemen. A little Belmont Stakes news for you. First of all, we've learned that West Point Thoroughbreds Kantaka has been scratched from the Grade 2 Woody Stevens. He's suffered a bruised heel, and as West Point Thoroughbreds stay, they're disappointed, but he'll be back to fight another day. And with a little over $300,000 in the win pool, Justify stands at even money. Hofburg and Bravazzo are near even at 9-2 and 5-1. Tenfold and Vino Rosso are both 8-1. And then we jump up. Blended Citizen 19-1. Gronkowski, the mystery horse, the question mark horse, 25-1. Free Drop Billy 29. Noble Indy 30. And Bafford's Other Horse, Restoring Hope, at 42-1. Our second interview, Seth Merrow is going to talk to Steve Bick. He spoke with him yesterday at Belmont Park, and so here's that discussion.
All right, you've been here for a week and a half. First, before we get into any specifics, just any overall buzz or buzz horses as far as the Belmont Stakes?
As far as Belmont itself, not offhand. I think these are known quantities for the most part. I think the one horse you might mention on that front is probably Gronkowski, who was more or less thought of as a preposterous Derby horse, and that's fine. But he's now had 5 weeks, at least 4, with Chad Brown, and Chad has been, I think, kind of come around to the horse's appeal, and I think he knows that long term he's a turf horse, but he seems very legitimately enamored with at least the talent to work with. Can he win this? I don't see how, but can he run well? Yeah, absolutely. So he's the one oddball horse, more or less. There's been some various things that have happened in training, that have been pluses and minuses with certain horses, but that's probably the one unique factor. And it's early, of course. Betting is opened, and he took early money, crazy early money.
Yeah, people are kind of expecting that just with the Gronkowski name. But let's get to some specifics now. It's justify or not justify. Do you put the Triple Crown contender on top or take a little bit of a shot against, or maybe as you play, do a little bit of both? I certainly have him on top, but as I play, I will certainly take a few shots against because the Triple Crown is so hard. But what are your thoughts in the Belmont Stakes?
Within the race, justify... I've been enamored with from word go, and I was lucky enough to be out at Santa Anita the day after the San Felipe, the big cap day. He ran in that allowance race. Was out there for Santa Anita Derby, so I got to see two of his three California races before the Derby and Preakness. I think he's being underappreciated for the performance in Baltimore. I think it was infinitely more impressive than people understand, and this is a racetrack whereby Pimlico and those conditions didn't suit him as a horse physically. These are conditions that he will excel under, and I cannot really see him being beaten. I think things would have to conspire against him almost for him to get beaten. By that I mean, a series of horses prompting a la the Smarty Jones episode with Rock Hard 10 and Eddington. I think he will gallop them to death.
Underneath, you find some value if you're playing an exacta or whatever, or a possible upset, or who are the horses you might be looking at?
Well, I am not taking Hofburg. I mean, I'll use him underneath as a logical inclusion, but it's hard to believe that people who are saying, that we have to bet against the Triple Crown candidate at 3-5, 2-5, but you're going to take 4-1 on Hofburg? That's your value decision? Good luck to you. And even if he wins, I don't get that. To me, you want the obscurities, and you want the horses that are like the ones that are in the charts of the last dozen Belmonts. You want the 28-1 shots. You want the 17-1 shots. Free Drop Billy, I don't understand everybody abandoning him. This is a scenario that he could do very well. And certainly Dale Romans has brought horses to this event. He's finished third 4 times, including with a maiden, with Nolan's Cat. So he got here with a horse that, granted, looks good in the mornings a lot, but the pace scenario, a softer pace scenario, and a pedigree that has him as a half to Hawkbill, it makes a lot of sense. And so I'm using Free Drop Billy at probably 24-1. Restoring Hope. You got to look at what this horse, at what he's offering from a pedigree standpoint, because he's probably best bred in the field for the trip. He is a one-pace type that is going to take to the trip. I want him at 30-1 on my tickets. You don't need me to tell you to fear Tenfold and Hofburg. Bravazzo, I think maybe the screws are starting to fly off right now. I think he may have boiled over a tad. I certainly admire what he's done. The game effort, chasing the pace in the Derby, and the good performance in Baltimore. But I think you want to find the horses that make no sense, because every year on Sunday after the Belmont, we say, how did that horse finish third? How did that horse finish second? How did that horse lose a photo for the win? Ruler on Ice, Commissioner, you name it. There's a million of these types that don't look like they have any chance on paper to impact the race, and then they impact the race.
Seth Merrow and Steve Bick, they host Loose on the Lead during the Saratoga meeting, which they've done for a number of years. Seth also spoke with Gabby Gaudette. Now, between Gabby and Acacia Courtney and Maggie Wolfendale, young women, these are young professional women who have really brightened the coverage of horse racing at their respective tracks and nationally as well on national television. They are extremely knowledgeable, personable, and Seth took the time to speak with Gabby, so here's that interview for you.
Crown on the line on Saturday, and everybody will certainly be paying attention to Justify, but there are some interesting alternatives. What are your thoughts on the Belmont?
Well, as a racing fan, of course, we're all rooting for another Triple Crown winner in Justify, and I've been out and have watched him train the last 2 days. I've watched him train pretty much almost every day throughout the Triple Crown, but really was attentive to how he took to the Belmont main track in the last 2 days. He has looked so incredible, and it looks like he's thriving off of racing, off of training, off of shipping, whatever it is. He's so defined. He looks phenomenal. So he's going to be tough to beat, but it's also very difficult to get a Triple Crown, and I think people are losing sight of that. So I'm going to take a slight shot against him with Vino Rosso. He's a horse that I have liked since before the Tampa Bay Derby. And I've stuck with him long enough that I think I'm going to stick with him one more time, just considering how Todd can get his horses to really peak on the Belmont. And he's looking for his 4th Belmont Stakes victory. And he reminds me a lot of Taprit in a weird way. I don't think, he just seems like a good Belmont type of horse. And you always question the distance, the pedigree. He's by Curlin, and he's out of a mare that's actually a half to Commissioner, who finished second to Tonalist in the Belmont. So, like the pedigree, I like where he could sit. He's got a little bit of tactical speed, so he just seems like the right horse for me.
Let me ask you about a couple in there that certainly are getting some conversation. Hofburg to me, and I've said this a few times already, he's very similar to Tenfold. They're both lightly raced with a lot of potential. I think Tenfold's a much better price. I prefer Tenfold, but Hofburg's getting the buzz.
He's too much of the buzz horse. No, thank you. Because, if he was going to be 15-1 or something, you're going to take a shot with him. By all means, go for it. But he's not going to be that. He's been, other than Justify, pretty much the talk of the town. He is a horse who looks like he's trending upward. He looks like he probably will run his best race to date on Belmont Day, but he still is kind of slow early. He doesn't have a lot of natural early speed, and you want a horse, I think, that has tactical speed in the Belmont. People like, closers stretching out in the Belmont, and it just never comes to fruition.
Yeah, it's one of those opposite of what you think kind of things, and then people do always think, the closer, but it's the horses with a little bit of positional speed. Also on the card, it's a really super competitive card. The Manhattan, I could make a case for 10 of them in there, but the Just a Game, kind of similar. A mile on the grass for the fillies and mares, a field of 8 entered in here, and I think you can make a case for probably 6 of them and have a certain level of confidence. What are your thoughts on the Just a Game?
I think the race really revolves around Arabian Beauty, especially the way that she ran in the Beaugay last time out for Chad Brown in her stateside debut. She absolutely crushed that field. Now, she is cutting back to the mile from a mile and a 16th, and if you look at her form overseas, she did better going longer, say a mile and a quarter around those distances. So my thinking for this race is to really find the true miler. And I don't think that she is that. I don't know if Proctor's Ledge is that. I know she won the Distaff Turf Mile last time out. I still think that she's maybe a little bit better going a mile and a 16th, a mile and an 8th. Lull kind of seems like a good miler for me. But the horse who I love cutting back in distance is Off Limits. She's been going a mile and a 16th, a mile and an 8th. And obviously the winner was in a different league, Sister Charlie, last time out. We'll see how she runs. But I think she's going to sit the perfect trip. I think she's the true miler. If you go back to the Matriarch or even the Noble Damsel here last year, she was so impressive. So I'm going to take a little bit of a shot with her. And I really like the 8 La Cornell. To me, she was way too far back to be effective. she's not a horse that likes to close much. She's more of a positional speed type of filly. So I'm just hoping that Jose Lezcano gets into her a little bit more out of the gate, and we'll see what happens. But she'll be a good price, I think, and she just can't be that far back.
All right, and finally, nice subdivision on these big days of big 3-year-old races, the subdivision of the 3-year-old sprinters. And on Belmont Stakes Day, it's the Woody Stevens. Nice field of 12 entered in here with, again, probably 5 or 6 you could make pretty solid case for. On the outside, World of Trouble and Strike Power both have fired really big efforts that you could kind of look at and feel good about. Our friends at West Point have Kenthok in here. Promises Fulfilled for Dale is very interesting in the race for me, but what are your thoughts on the Woody Stevens?
I think the pace is going to be pretty quick, especially with the likes of Pure Shot in here, with the likes of Promises Fulfilled, and then we obviously have those 2 outside runners that you alluded to, World of Trouble, Strike Power. Even Madison's Luna down on the inside is really fast, so I would imagine it's going to be contentious and it's going to be fast. So the thing that intrigues me about Strike Power, and I know Promises Fulfilled beat Strike Power in the Fountain of Youth, I like that they've taken their time with Strike Power versus Promises Fulfilled. I thought was just thrown into the deep end in the Kentucky Derby, and with a lightly raced horse, sometimes that can mess them up for a little bit. So Strike Power, I know Mark Hennig's done a great job in the morning getting this horse to settle and maybe rate from off of the pace, so he's capable of doing that. I have no doubt about it, especially with the turn back. So I prefer him. I think World of Trouble has a world of talent. He still needs to prove to me that he can be effective against better horses. I'm going to be using him. I'm also going to be using the 6, Still Having Fun. Love this horse at a price because of the pace that I was alluding to. To me, he is the true closer in the race, and that's really who I want. I love Joel Rosario on him because he seems like he'll suit this horse perfectly with a closing run. He comes out of the Chick Lane last time out. He was the only horse that was closing into Matoli, who I think is probably the fastest 3-year-old sprinter, maybe one of the fastest 3-year-olds in the country. So I think he's got sneaky good form, and the in-between races don't look so good, but he's not a distance horse. So I really like him at a price, too. I'll use him in the exactas.
Thanks, Gabby. We'll see you upstate in a few weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you for staying with us, ladies and gentlemen. Again, another interview by Seth Merrow with the very knowledgeable Gabby Gaudet. Now, a NYRA Stakes Day preview would be incomplete without some words from Andy Serling. He's a Saratoga native. He hosts At the Post throughout the Saratoga season that will be coming up. So here is Seth's interview with Andy Serling.
All right, thoughts on the Belmont Stake? Triple Crown on the line, Justify, yes, no, maybe?
Maybe. Maybe's easy. I don't have anything against Justify. The knock on Justify is just 2 knocks, and they're related. Is he going to be capable of running a big race in his 6th start in 16 weeks? That's an obvious question, and he's coming off his worst effort. So there's a good argument to say, well, it's taken a toll on it. It's funny, I talked to Bob Baffert quite a bit yesterday. We did a podcast, and he talked about that, and he said, I watched the Preakness, and he sounded like Andy Beyer when I talked to Andy, and he said, well, he's really good, but he's just sort of like run his course, he needs some time. And he said, but then he bounced back so quickly that I feel differently, and I almost wonder if he doesn't love a wet track. So maybe he's just a good horse that runs through a wet track, and he got a dry track in the Belmont. He's a very good horse. If he able to control in the front end, and I think Bravazzo's going to be aggressive. We'll see what Noble Indy does. If he controls in the front end, good luck to them beating him. But I do think he's vulnerable. His last race wasn't good. He's a short price, and we try to beat short-priced horses that might be vulnerable. So I don't mind betting against him, but I'm not leaving him out of any multi-race bets.
So where do you look? To me, Vino Rosso's interesting. I thought Blended Citizen off the Peter Pan. And between Hofburg and Tenfold, you're laughing, I like that.
Well, already. When you mentioned Blended Citizen before the
that's right. That's right. I forgot about that. You were on that morning. Hofburg and Tenfold, I think they're a similar pattern. And between what we expect the odds, I like Tenfold better. But Hofburg certainly getting a lot of buzz. So who are the alternatives?
You're finished, right? I don't want to take any of your time away.
It's all you.
I don't want to cut into your act here. You're the star. I don't like Blended Citizen. I didn't like it last time. Unless he, listen, any horse could jump up and improve dramatically in a 1.5 miles. That's one of the reasons I understand why trainers take shots in the Belmont, because a horse can be a completely different horse in a 1.5 miles, and he is even in a 1.25 miles. So who knows? But to me, there's 3 horses there. If he loses, to me, it's very hard for the winner not to be Hofburg, Tenfold or Vino Rosso. I prefer Tenfold because A, I think he could be the biggest price of the three, and if you look at his Preakness, there's an argument that he could have won the Preakness. Doesn't mean he's going to win the Belmont, by the way, and he could have got a perfect trip to do it. But I think the Diamond King kind of pushed him out of position, and that cost him. And it's Steve Aspen, he's got a big-time distance pedigree, and he's improving. Todd Pletcher, Vino, I'm not letting Todd Pletcher win this Belmont if the favorite loses and not use him. He's too good in this race. I don't love Hofberg. I don't know where his good race is, and he's too short a price. But it's Belmont, and he could end up being a good horse, but I think he's overbet based on what he's actually done on the racetrack.
Let's talk a little undercard. Met Mile, certainly Mind Your Biscuits. Huge, eye-popping effort in Dubai, but that's the question mark coming back from Dubai. The horse that's getting some buzz is B Jersey. What are your thoughts on the Met Mile?
Yeah, Mind Your Business, to me the question is the mile. And whether or not he gets enough pace to close him too. But I'm picking a dead closer, so I'm hoping the pace comes apart a bit. You have to use B Jersey because there's a chance he's the best horse in the race. I mean, this is a horse out of nowhere has gotten just tremendous for Steve Asmussen, and he could be really good, and he could just be cruising along on the front end over catch him. So I want a closer, and I want a speed with him, and I want a closer. I like Good Samaritan here. To me, Good Samaritan was too close to the pace last time out, and running against Backyard Heaven, who might end up being the best handicap horse in the country, especially if West Coast never comes back. And now it's a flat mile, and they can just drop him back. And there's nothing better than an honor code, and I'm not saying he's honor code, because honor code is a tremendous racehorse. But he's got fast races. If you look at the race, he's got races that are as fast as pretty much anybody in here in general. And the first time around one turn on the dirt, give him a shot to make a big run. I thought he was interesting. So I'll use Good Samaritan and B Jersey for the most of my play.
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you.
This is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Sign up today for Capital OTB's handicapping series and plan your trip to Las Vegas.
In a recent study of some of the top online wagering sites, Capital OTB won big in total player rewards, far surpassing some of the best-known wagering sites in America. While other rewards programs simply offer you points redeemable for gift cards, Capital OTB's rebates are paid to you in actual cash. Plus, Capital OTB gives you full and immediate access to your money. So if all you're getting now are points and gift cards, join Capital OTB Player Rewards today and get cash back. Visit CapitalOTBBet.com and sign up today.
Funding your Capital OTB bet account is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Easy Money. Clearly the fastest and easiest method of depositing funds into your account. Make deposits or withdrawals in just minutes. 2. Green Dot Money Pack. Gives you instant access to your funds. Green Dot Money Packs are available at thousands of retailers nationwide. And 3. MasterCard Visa. Simply click on the link from the funding page, enter your account information, and fund your account. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Thank you for staying with us, ladies and gentlemen. When I had the opportunity to come and sit here for Seth this morning, the guys in the control room asked me who I wanted to talk to for our live interview, and I didn't hesitate. I said, we got to talk to Michael Kipnis, the Wizard. He's a good friend of mine, been so for many, many years, and he's been a good friend of Capital OTB over the years. So, Michael, I want to welcome you back to OTB Air.
It's nice to be back to my old stomping ground.
Michael, I know you're down at Belmont Park. This is the one thing that I think you can do for our listeners and viewers. Please, talk us through the pace as you see it for this Belmont Stakes. How's the race going to unfold?
Well, I'm going to go out on the limb here and say that Justify will not get a free ride on the lead. I feel that there's a really good chance that Noble Indy, breaking from post 9, is going to be hustled hard right from the start and almost act as a rabbit to set up Vino Rosso, the other Pletcher entry. So I think Justify and Mike Smith will have to make a decision if that happens, whether that he wants to get involved in a duel, which I don't think is, smart tactics. But what Smith could do is let Noble Indy just go out there and do what he's going to do, which is really to put pressure on Justify and make sure that the pace is lively. I think Smith would be wise to just take off the rail, let Noble Indy go, come outside and just stalk about a length behind, and then attack on far turn. That would be the tactics I would employ if Noble Indy does do what I think he is going to do. Because the other speed, Restoring Hope, that is also trained by Bob Baffert, I've read some columnists say that Restoring Hope is going out to the front. There's no way he is. It's different ownership than Justify, but there's no way that Restoring Hope is going to try to derail Justify on the pace. So he's not going to be, on the lead. So that's what I'm thinking, that Noble Indy is the one that's going to sacrifice himself, especially with Vino Rosso also trained by Pletcher in the race, and common ownership with Mike Rapoli.
Yeah. Michael, let me ask you this. Okay, so the gates open and Noble Indy and Justify engage tactically. Do you see any of the others in this field attempting to change their running style? We've talked before, horses for the most part are prisoners of their running style, and it takes only the very best of horses who can win on the front, in the middle, from the back, and so on. So do you see any of the others changing tactics in an attempt to either thwart, Justify, or improve their chances?
Not at all. I think, and the reason I'm saying that is, in order for any of these horses to perform at their best, going 1.5 miles for the first time, and as you know, all these horses have never gone 1.5 miles. Some have not even gone beyond 1.1 miles. So to change tactics is not a prudent way to have these horses be at their best, to at least hit the board. Remember, you don't have to win the Belmont Stakes to increase your value with the stallion.
Right.
If you run second or third, the horse is worth so much more money in the breeding shed.
All right, Mike, let me interrupt you here, Michael, and ask you this question. Okay, if Justify is not in the race, he doesn't exist as a horse, how might this race play out?
Well, then I think that Noble Indy would hustle to the front, because he does have the speed, if asked, to be quicker than anyone else in the field other than Justify. I think Bravazo would be forwardly placed. I think Restoring Hope would be forwardly placed. And I even think Tenfold would be forwardly placed. And those horses, Bravazo, Restoring Hope, and Tenfold, will be in stalking position early on.
Okay. Who do you think is coming in off the best race other than the favorite?
Well, I think, Bravazo and Tenfold both ran really well in the Preakness. That was run on a wet track. We're not going to have a wet track today. It's going to be a dry surface. I think Bravazo was helped by a wet track in both the Derby and the Preakness, whereas Tenfold, I think, has more upside. He's more lightly raced. He's handled the dry track well. So I think Tenfold has a chance, to move forward.
Okay.
Move forward off the Preakness. I think Vino Rosso disliked the wet track in the Kentucky Derby. I think returning to a dry surface will also help his chances. I also think Hofberg ran well on a wet track in the Derby, was given a freshening pointing to the Belmont Stakes. I think returning to a dry surface, he'll do better in the Belmont. So, those are the horses I think have a chance to move forward. I think Bravazzo is not going to move forward. I think he's going to regress a little bit back on a dry track and making his third start, having danced all the dances in the Triple Crown race.
All right, Michael, I know you picked Justify in the Kentucky Derby. I know you picked Justify in the Preakness. And in the same way that Justify is going for a Triple Crown, so's the Wizard. How did you picked him, didn't you?
I picked him. The key is, I turned a 2-5 shot into a 4-1 shot in the Preakness, which, as you saw my wagering strategies where I attacked the superfecta and the trifecta.
Michael,
I'm keen.
I have to stop because we're running close. I'm just going to say this. The key to making money is how you construct your wagers, and there's no one better at teaching you how to construct wagers than Michael Kipnis, the Wizard. You can get his betting window at drf.com. Check it out. Michael, thank you very much for joining us. I'm sorry
pleasure, Tom.
I
Thanks
appreciate it. Okay, you be well. Ladies and gentlemen, there's an early Talking Horses. They're coming on in about 30 seconds. I want to thank Capital for allowing me to sit in here today. I always enjoy it. Great to see the guys in the control room. I want to give a track fact salute to my friend Nick Kling and thank Michael Kipnis for joining us. Thank you very much. You have a great Belmont day.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.